this is what I'm going to talk about, servicing deck hardware. It's not very difficult, okay? But I'm going to encourage you to do it. This may not be the right time of year to be telling you about this either. However, this is what I was offered. But very briefly, before I do that, this will be the only bit of selling. Apart from this, as put on Robin's boat, we've spoken to Rogers and come up with an offer, which is you can get this fitted to your boat for a fixed price, okay, including labour and parts. And there are folders down here, which you all should have, and in there is a sheet that tells you how much it is, okay? I mean, if you've got a furler and you haven't got one of these, you're really missing a trick completely, yeah? So I thoroughly recommend it, not just because I sell them. Other solutions are available if you can really bring yourself.
Stan, is that exactly the same length as our aluminium?
No, it's not. That's a piece of offcut that I had.
But the one that was put on is...
The one that was put on is the correct length.
Exactly.
I don't know whether it is the correct length as specified by Jeremy.
There's all the holes in the right place.
Well, Hamel Yacht Services did mine, and it's exactly the same place. I don't know whether they're able to use the same holes.
Probably not. Depending on how old your boat is.
They were Imperial, they were the original ones.
Yeah, I mean Luma used to use 80mm, then they used 4-inch. We use 4-inch, now we use 100mm, which is, 100mm and 4 inches is 102, so that's a recipe for disaster.
But Harken will come and fit it for you,
no.
so I imagine they'll take care of that.
No.
Okay.
Jeremy will fit it for you.
Oh, okay.
That's the deal.
No, you won't do it personally.
Try and stop him if he decides he's going. It'll be fitted. Well, that's fitted. Right, so what I'm going to talk about is blocks and tracks, furlers and winches. I won't talk in any detail about Harken products because that's what I know about, but the basic principles apply to everything. Please ask me any questions as we go. This presentation could take 5 minutes if you don't. Okay? So, blocks. How do you maintain blocks? Yeah? You're going to find that a lot of this servicing has themes in common. And the first one is keeping them clean. Yeah? Flush them out. Dinghy sailors are really good at this. Yeah? They bring their boat up the slipway, they get down straight to a hose pipe and they wash everything off. And what they're doing is they're getting all the salt out of the gear. And the gear will then work better because they've done that. Now we don't obviously get that opportunity very often, but if you do, and especially at the end of the season, take all the blocks off and give them a good wash in warm water with Lux Flakes, because that doesn't just go in the presence of salt. it stays frothy. So keep them clean. Get the salt out of them. This is especially important with ball bearing blocks and roller blocks.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
We've got in the habit of using boiling water to clean. Is that well, we're not boiling, but hot water. Does that make them work properly?
Yeah, well, yeah. Hot water is great. Hot water, at the end of this, I mean, I would generally just give them a wash when I can. But if warm water will get the salt out better. And it is
like
the
sponges and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but it depends what your block is. I have got some blocks here. Ball bearing blocks. It's absolutely vital because the worst enemy of a ball bearing block is salt. Yeah. Roller bearing. Now there are some Contessa 32s that have these, especially English Rose in its backstay. In fact, English Rose generally. Rollers, not balls. Yeah. Now the rollers are less prone to salt, but it's still, it helps enormously. One thing that happens is if you get salt stopping a ball or a roller from rolling, it'll skid rather than roll. And if it skids, it'll flat spot. Yeah? And that's the start. Oh, and this is a plain bearing block. Okay? Sort of thing you find at a mast base because it's a good static load block. Still worth it because it's got ball bearings on the side that keep the sheave central in the ship cheeks. Inspect your rope. If you're getting wear on your rope, where are you getting it from? Is it from the blocks? Is there damage to the sheaves? It's all a question of inspection. So having done that, if your block is like this, it's held together with rivets, and you find there's a fault with it, what you can do with it is that, okay? You know, if it's damaged, I'm sorry, you have to replace it. Properly servicing blocks starts with these, which actually come in a smaller size than this. But this block you can take apart and replace every single part of it. Okay? This is called a Harken Black Magic block. Other companies make their own equivalents, if you can really bear it. There are perfect good reasons, and that's a completely different talk. There are perfect good reasons why these are better. But you can, we have just redesigned these. Okay? Now there's a world of these out there that were designed during the 90s for the New Zealand Black Magic America's Cup team. So there are thousands and thousands of these out there. We've just redesigned it. We've redesigned it such that it looks a bit sleeker, it's a tiddly bit stronger, but all the spare parts fit the old block. So eventually, if you keep breaking bits of your block, it looks like you bought a brand new one. However, yeah, so spare parts, unless it's this, it really comes down to shackles. Now shackles is something you definitely should inspect. If your shackle is stretching, your block is overloaded. Yeah, let me show you two blocks. These two blocks look extremely similar. Yeah? This has a safe workload of 320 kilos. This has a safe workload of 820 kilos. How can this be? They look exactly the same. But we look at the shackles though, and that gives you a clue. This has ball bearings on a flat race. This has ball bearings in a curved race, which means that their balls are better supported and the load carrying much better. But if you look at the shackles, no hardware manufacturer wastes money putting a shackle on that they don't need. This shackle is strong enough for this block. This one is strong enough for that block. If you find that your shackle like this is starting to stretch, you might think, what I really want to do is put a forward shackle on there. And that might work for you, but what you're then doing is hiding the fact that this block is overloaded. And it will wear out quicker. So watch out for your shackles. Other parts, as I say, there really isn't anything else.
That lubricated, you mentioned lubricated.
I have. That's a very good question. In general, no. Because what happens is you over lubricate because you can't control yourself. And when you over lubricate, everything starts skidding rather than rolling. And that starts flat spotting and it's worn out. I'll talk more about balls and this, the only lubricant you should use when we come to tracks. Which I think, in fact, the next doodah thing.
Clicky.
Oh, I'm really good at losing things. Everybody get this. Everybody's watching me losing. Tracks. Maintenance. Again. Clean it. Inspect it. Proper servicing requires you to take the car off the track. Depending on your boat, this can be a complete nightmare. I think it's too bad on the Contessa actually. I think you've got enough space at the end of the track to get the car off. Okay? If you have an old-fashioned non-captive bull Harken car, or anybody else's ball bearing car, if you take off the track, all the balls will fall out. Yeah? Be ready for this moment.
I've
Either
experienced
get a
that
loader
recently.
track, put on the end, you roll it onto the loader track, and it's no problem. Or towels, everything, just got to catch the ball. Right, so I've got to show you. I mean, this is what's going to fall out the bottom of your car. All these ball bearings. Yeah. If I took this one off the end, I can't put the ball in. If I took it, you would find the ball didn't fall out because there's a clip that holds them in place. This makes it ever so much easier when you come to inspect everything. Check the bearings for shape. What that means is they're supposed to be round. Okay? Unfortunately, if they start skidding, they get a flat spot. Every time they get to that, they stop rolling. Eventually, when they really get worn out, you get what we call square balls. Okay? Square balls are really bad because everything's then skidding and it's horrible. Replace the balls. We've got them in stock. Everybody else will have them in stock. Ours are imperial. Everybody else is metric. So, you know, but the reason ours are still, we have tried so hard to metrificate everything. We can't do it with the balls because we started out with imperial ball bearings, and we don't want to make anything obsolete. So everything, the track and the cars have always been compatible. So we check the bearings for shape. Now, again it says lubricate. Now, if you insist on lubricating, and people do, there is a product called McLube One Drop Ball Bearing Conditioner.
Made by Harken.
No.
It's got a big Harken label on the bottom of it.
It says recommended by Harken. And you can tell that's true because I'm doing it. Now, what it doesn't say is distributed by Harken, and that would be a very true statement. Okay, but there is nothing else on the market that claims to do this. It's much more tenacious than like machine oil. You know, and what you do with it is called one drop. You put one drop on one ball in either side of this, and then you go. I guarantee you, by the time you've done that, every single ball is covered in oil. Enough oil and no more than enough. One drop each side. This lasts a long time. But again, if you over lubricate, you're asking for trouble. Don't use sprays, because all that does is attract muck and stick it to the ball bearings and the track. This stuff is the only thing I would lubricate plastic ball bearings.
Not even the McLube spray, which is the same.
McLube spray.
Is that
I'm saying don't use McLube spray.
okay?
Is it a silicone thing or is it?
This, that's all. That's it. But it's a specific mix. McLube spray is PTFE, it's not silicone. McLube spray is for things that slide. This is for things that roll. Okay. So if you're using these, you could actually put one drop in here as well. If you really want to, you can try to get it into the ball bearings on some of the other. But your block's clean. You don't need any lubricant. Controls means don't forget about your cross hauls. Check the sheaves on the car and on the end control. Again, if they're Harken, they're replaceable, but you know, I'm sure everybody else has got the same thing with spare parts. There's no particular thrill about it. Right, any questions on maintaining track systems? There you go. Yeah, not very complete. Furlers, this is completely manufacturer dependent. Okay? If you have a Furlex, you may well need to change the oil, change the seals, etc., etc. If you are in the fortunate position of having a Harken furler, I'm not suggesting, you know, that you should go and change your Furlex to a Harken furler just simply for the sake of how easy it is to maintain. But essentially, what you're trying to do is get rid of the salt again, because we use exactly the same ball bearings in our furler as we do in our cars, in our blocks. And all you've got to do is wash them out. They're open to the air. Now, in this country, give them a good rinse now and again. Usually it's taken care of by something that we call rain. Okay? But it doesn't mean it's not a good idea if you're near a hose pipe to give it a good slosh out. Yeah? If it's really starting to get gritty the way it works, it may be that some of the ball bearings are degrading. You'll have to take the furler down, but you can change the balls. It's a bit of fun if you really want to do it. Feel free to ask us how. It's not very difficult. It really isn't. So, everybody else, follow the main. The single thing that applies to all this stuff is if you maintain stuff, it lasts longer and it works better. So, follow the manufacturer's instructions. I wish I'd love to tell you more about this, but quite frankly, my job's my brain is full of enough stuff about Harken gear that I can't fit everybody else's in as well. My brain gets smaller every day. Right, so yes, furlers. Now here's the one that everybody loves. Who services their winches every year? That's not bad.
It's all the races.
Everybody else does it what? Every 6 months?
Once a week. We race 6 years.
Once a week. After every race, in some cases. Maintenance comes down right. We say, or rather, my Italian friends in our winch factory say you should do it twice a year. Okay? I would say once a year. I will accept you're taking it seriously. I would say every 2 years. Okay, it's better than most people. If you say, can you service them? Or, no, I don't think, how old's my boat? Then, you need to do better. Because even as racing crews service their winches and then apply 5 gorillas to each winch. Yeah? They don't really disservice them at all. The damn thing could be full of friction and it would still work for them. Cruisers, where there's 2 or 3 of you, you're the guys that need the stuff to work properly. That number on the top of a winch, where it says what size is your winch? It's a 44, it's a, well, do you know what that number is? People never do.
The ratio of winding, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
With a 10-inch winch handle, and only with a 10-inch winch handle, 44 would be a 44-to-1 mechanical advantage in the winch. If you don't service it, you'll be down around about 20, because you'll lose so much to friction. Wash it out occasionally. If you've got that hose pipe and you're doing the furler and a few blocks, give the winch a whoosh out too. You won't dislodge much of the grease that's been caked on in there for 5 years. But you might wash out some salt. How do you service a winch properly? I've taken one apart over here. There's a Harken 46 winch, a bit big for a Contessa 32, but there is at least one Contessa 32 that has these 46s, yeah?
All the racing boats have got 46s.
There you are. All the race boats. Are they all Harken ones?
No.
Poor soul.
Well, the trouble is you'll find that the 46 just sticks out slightly.
Yeah, I know. And you'll see that on the new build.
But the difference in terms of getting the winch
Efficiency. Right. Taking a winch apart, it says dismantle. What are the pitfalls of dismantling? And I promise you, we don't load it with springs that ping parts over the side. I know you're all convinced that we do, but we don't. So, when you're dismantling it, you start off by taking out the handle socket. This is true of nearly every winch I've ever met. Doesn't matter who made it. And there's various different ways of taking out the handle socket. The Harken one is always a screwdriver down the handle socket. That's our handle socket. Always that. Unscrew it, lift out the handle socket. That was easy. You might then need to remove the stripper arm. If it's a self-tailer, because nearly every winch is a self-tailer. And then on the Harken one again, it's loose and 3 screws, twist it and take it off. So the screws stay in place, they're not likely to go over the side. But at that point, you reach the moment where the biggest opportunity to throw stuff in the water is there. Okay? And it manifests itself in many ways. You lift up the drum. Now at this point, okay, you can see into the drum. There's a big hole at the top of the winch. That actually only falls out because this winch has been taken apart 57,000 times. Because it's got no grease in it as well, which means when I come to reassemble it, it's really hard work. But you can see, are the bearings caught inside the drum? Yeah? Because if you don't look and you just lift it off, I guarantee they're stuck inside the drum, but they're not very stuck inside the drum. And at this point, you'll go bounce splash, and you'll go, oh God, and you'll throw something else in the water. Yeah? Probably the drum. If you throw the drum in the water and you can't find it, it's going to cost you virtually the same as a new winch to buy a new drum. With spare part accounting applied to the most expensive part of the drum, they are incredibly expensive, so look after your drum. Okay? Right, so I lift it out. And I make sure, and what I do, when I get on, and if I can see that they're stuck in there, I can wait. Wait for them to drop back onto the winch. Or tilt it so that when I lift it off, if they are determined to fall out, they fall into the cockpit.
And down the cockpit drain.
Well, they're pretty big. It's that big red, it's that red bit. It's not going down the drain. We're all right. Now, I'm not saying you should go buy a Harken winch because of this, but on the Harken winch, they're captive. They don't fall off. They can't come off with the drum. You can get them off, but you need to pull them off very positively. Okay? So the next thing you do is, if there's a housing inside, you take that out. It's usually a ring of screws. Take that off, and you're into the workings. This is typical workings of a winch. It makes that noise. Yeah? That's a ratchet gear. And these little things here that flip backwards and forwards are called pawls. Now, on some people's winches, if I take the ratchet gear off, the pawl gear, which is the thing underneath it, that is when these magic springs manifest themselves. It doesn't on ours, okay? They're captive. Again, doesn't matter about that, it's just a point. But I take the whole winch apart. Yeah, all the gears come out, all the washers, another pawl gear, another ratchet gear, another washer, until I've got a great big pile of metal. Now, you may wish to do it in a more sensible fashion than that, which is to say, you start with going, oh yeah, those bits are that one, those bits are that one, and then you know how it goes back together. You can get the exploded diagrams of our winches and most of our competitors' winches off the web. So if you're in any doubt about how it goes back together, get that. The next thing I do is completely degrease the winch, completely. Gunk or Geyser, proprietary degreasing agents. I certainly wouldn't recommend petrol, given that it is the best degreaser I've ever come across, but it's quite stark. I usually put my fag out before I start. I don't smoke anymore, but no. I definitely would say you should use a degreasing agent rather than petrol. It's only us lunatics who do use petrol.
Is the light oil done with D40 squirted?
That's a bit, but it's better if you can get a real degreaser and give them a good scrub with a brush. Get the muck off it, because in a minute I'm going to put some nice clean lubricant back on, and if there's anything left of the old one, it's not a good thing. Gunk and Geyser, you can wash the parts in water afterwards when the muck's gone. Right, so I then inspect all the teeth. This is, again, it's dismantled, it's degreased, I inspect. I'm looking for chips in the teeth, I'm looking for bent teeth. Yeah? Same on these bigger gears. Everything's fine, that's good. I'm looking at the bearings, see if any of the individual elements are missing. I don't think we will send, well, I think we'll sell you a whole new bearing. I don't think we'll sell you the individual parts, I'm afraid. By the way, they're plastic bearings in Harken's winches now. That's because, and everybody goes, oh, that's a bit cheap. To which we say, well, we've been using plastic bearings in America's Cup winches for 15 years, but you couldn't afford it.
So the white thing's actually the rolled bearings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, big metal in most people's winches. But now, you know, we've brought our experience with America's Cup, Volvo, etc., and all the Grand Prix stuff, the TP52s, back to our basic winches, and we're using plastic self-lubricating bearings. Theoretically, you don't need to grease these. Actually, if it's my boat, they're going to get smeared grease because it won't damage them. Why not? I've inspected everything and I'm happy with it. If I'm not happy with it, I get the spare parts and I put it all back together or dry fit it all. Then I start reassembling, and as I reassemble it, one thing I didn't mention, don't forget these teeth on the inside of the drum. That's actually the most likely piece of gear to get broken because it's made of alloy. It's not steel or bronze. So, but you know, they don't break very often. But yeah, don't forget them. So we then reassemble, greasing as we go. What do we not grease?
The pole.
Correct. Thank you, Guy. Yeah. Don't grease the pawls. If you grease them, if the grease goes hard, it will stop them operating, and that will result in a back-winding winch, which is not very entertaining, especially if it's got a handle in it. Okay, I have come across this once or twice in my life, and the last time it happened, I ended up servicing the winches on the next downwind leg. Okay, so we got the bottom mark on the winches all working again, but oh god, it was a panic.
I find frequently, maybe once a season, the springs break.
Really? Who made those winches?
Anderson.
Yeah, but the springs. Yeah, but I presume the springs and pawls are fairly standard.
Yeah. No. Absolutely not.
The springs are, because you buy the packs.
No. But yeah, you get the, for Harken winches they're the same. But Harken springs and pawls are not the same as, say, Brandel. Although they look very similar, and if you really try hard, you can get them in. It ain't going to work very well though. And they're not the same as Hanson either. It just looks at them. We sell a winch service kit. And what's in a winch service kit? 10 pawls, 10 pawl springs. But your springs should last 5 years. When you're looking for wear around pawls, by the way, look for the size of that pocket changing. If that starts to stretch, you're going to have to replace this at some point. But anyway, we oil the pawls. This is one reason why twice a season is not so silly. Because that oil doesn't stick around forever. What oil should we use?
Sewing machine.
Oh,
One drop.
Dun, dun, dun. Harken pawl oil. Now, Lumar also make a specific pawl oil. Okay? I have no idea. I'm sure it's fine. What grease should we use? White, no less, winch grease. Now, why should we use this? Because it is food grade. If you need something to fry your egg and bacon, and you have nothing else, you can use Harken winch grease. And I have no idea what it tastes like, but it is food grade grease. Okay? We all used to make this horrible stuff. It was black and had stuff in it. It was disgusting. Now it's all lovely and clean, and you can eat off it. Other winch greases are available. I have no idea whether you can fry your egg and chips.
Just out of interest, do you know if other makes of winches also sell the little pawls in there?
Everybody will sell pawls. Yeah.
They do.
does.
Brandel does.
Everybody will make pawls because they're the one thing. They're the one thing that will wear out.
Yeah.
Might take a while. Unless it's Brandel. No, Harken pawl oil has not been available on the market for 9 months. We did not like this very much. The reason was an EU regulation. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Damn.
That said that it had to have a data sheet with it. It's expressing how revolting it was, and it had to be in a fixed set of languages. And if you can't find anyone who can translate technical information about oil into Hebrew,
No way.
well, it took us 9 months to find someone who could do it. And we couldn't sell it, but we got our first shipment of the new, complete with a data sheet, Paul Oils last month. So you can now. If you can't get hold of this and you're desperately trying to do it, 3-in-1 oil.
So you'll be based in the UK.
But that is more that is more tenacious than 3-in-1 oil. It's exactly designed to lubricate pawls. So I'm reassembling. What might I forget when I'm reassembling? I'm greasing all the teeth lightly. How do I grease it? Squirt some grease out onto something and use a paintbrush. Oil, oil, oil. Assemble, assemble, assemble. Things you might forget. On most winches, there is a bearing surface between the handle socket and the housing of the winch. So let's put some grease on the outside of the handle socket. Yeah? Otherwise that sound is probably because you haven't greased them. Never forget that bit. Anti-seize. There's a substance called Tef gel on the market, distributed in this country by a company called Harken. But only because we needed an anti-seize agent. Okay? So we signed an agreement up with them that we distribute it. We sell it to all kinds of weird people, nothing to do with just boats. But you can use it instead of Duralac, okay, to keep dissimilar metals apart. But also you can stop things, if you find something like, so yeah, steel screw into alloy, definitely put Tef gel on that. But also there are some parts of some probably more exotic winches where you actually need to make sure that they're not going to get jammed in, so you can put anti-seize on that. And there are certain parts on some exotic winches where a screw is going up rather than down. Nearly always in a winch, it's sort of everything assembles downwards. But some of our Grand Prix winches, there are screws that go upwards. You have to use what's it called? Thread locker.
Loctite.
Thank you. See how small my brain's getting? Loctite on them, blue Loctite, but I just say. See, I knew I was talking about that. And essentially, that's it with a winch. Keep going until it's reassembled, properly greased. Give it a spin. Gin and tonic. Congratulate yourself on how able you are. It isn't difficult. It really isn't difficult. Don't be afraid of it. But do be cautious. The problem is not usually reassembling, the problem is normally occur while you're disassembling it, pieces start going everywhere. And I'm a world's expert at it. I throw more winch into water than anybody in the whole world. But, anyway, that's really all I have to say about deck hardware. And I know you're way behind time, so I will shut up. If you want to ask me any questions, you can get to me through Harken's website. Or you can ring me, it's fine, that's my job. I mean, if you ask me what my job is, I don't know. If you ask my boss what my job is, I'm not sure he knows either. I don't really want to get into that. Pardon?
But you're jolly helpful.
Well, there you go. Thank you. It's just a question of what he's doing. We all do it, and it's just the way we work. So, my job title is technical sales and marketing. And this time of year, it usually means talking to people, lovely people like you. So, thank you very much for my lunch. It'd be lovely to see you.